Welcome back to another episode of The Challenge Insiders. We're recapping episode 7 for The Challenge All-Stars. Chantel, I'm sad. I lost my tenderoni today.
I was feeling for you. I was like, oh my goodness, he's going to have to take his tenderoni off the board. I was like, I felt bad. I thought about you when it was happening, and I was like, oh no. What does USA Today say now?
We will go back into the USA Today, which I find interesting just to see how they rank people. But I really was sad to see him go. That's one of the reasons whenever I watch these shows, I don't like to have favorites when I'm watching it. And Nehemiah, for me, this season has become a bit of a favorite. I loved even why he did this, to try and help underprivileged kids and give back to the community. I just thought he had such a good story. But again, it just showed me why we should never trust the Challenge edit. Like, you can read an edit in a lot of other shows. The Challenge is not one of those shows where you should read anything into an edit. And I'm also, again, going to read into the edit this episode because I thought that they were starting to put up other sort of storylines going into the final. But overall, I'm sad, Chantel. What can I say?
I know. I'm sorry that you're having to go through this right now. I was also thinking, too, like these past few weeks when you've been talking about the edit and talking about how, you really felt like he was going far. For some reason, not that I didn't think that he was good enough or like athletic enough. Speaking the truth. None of those things at all. But I just didn't feel like he was going to be winning the whole thing for whatever reason that was. And I guess I had a little bit of intuition or sixth sense or something that Nehemiah was not going to even make the final.
Yeah, so sad to see it. Like, listen, I'm not taking anything away from Big Easy, who had an incredible performance in this episode. And like Nehemiah said at the end of this episode, Big Easy is his kryptonite because this is the second time he's now lost against them as well. So who would have thought that Big Easy would be the man to take Nehemiah down? Because he was looking unstoppable throughout this whole season to me coming into this episode.
No, you poor thing. Have you seen the duel where he did lose to Eric? Yeah, okay, you watched it. So yeah. This is the thing, and maybe this is why I wasn't as high on Nehemiah as you are, is that it didn't seem like he always had the luck on his side, like I find that within all these competitive reality shows, there's a little element of luck that comes into play. Are you lucky enough to get the elimination that you're going to be best suited for at the exact time when you're best suited for it? And so he just is also not very challenge lucky as well. And so maybe that's why I wasn't as high as you were on Nehemiah, even though he's been a really great performer. He's been telling the story for the most part up until now. And the edit did us dirty because he is gone.
Yeah, and we'll get into Nehemiah and his luck going into this arena at the end, because I do feel like this elimination was completely within his control. Like, he could have won this elimination, but we'll go into that when we actually talk about the latter part of this episode. So we start off here in the beginning with the Godfather coming back into home. He's got that celebration, gets the moves going, the dance moves, showing that the Godfather still has it. And he's got the crown on. And Mark says he's now happy with Kendall, who's the other person who I really feel sad for in this episode, because let's talk about her real quick as well. Like, Kendall's had a massive season up until this point, right?
Well, that's another thing, too. So I just kind of mentioned that there's a little bit of luck that goes on with these shows. And I think it has to be a little bit of luck, too, with who is cast that you're friends with or that you vibe well with or that you know from other seasons that are in good standings. And so I don't think that she's been the luckiest with her social position in the game because of who happens to be cast. I think there could have been many different configurations where she wasn't being thrown in all the time. And even with this new twist, because she actually is really good, the potential that she'd be called in by many people. So I think that she's unfortunately not as lucky, but it could be because she hasn't really stayed in the family, in the circle of the MTV and the Challenge as much as some of the other people. And so she's kind of an easy person to throw in because nobody really has that close of a bond with her. So
Yeah. But if you look at Kendall as a whole and you look at her challenge legacy, I guess now, and obviously she did shows before that, which I can't comment on, but if you look at that, I feel like she was a blue chip stock. If you look at the stock market coming in here, where she only had upside really for this season because she came in, a lot of people didn't really know who she was. She wasn't really rated that high, probably by a lot of people. A lot of fans probably didn't even, I know she did one season and she won it, and obviously that puts respect on her name, but I feel like she came into this and she leaves here by everybody calling her the MVP, everybody being super happy to have her there. Mark, even here early in the episode, says that he's now happy to go to a final with Kendall. So I feel like she gained a lot of respect probably from viewers and probably gained a lot of respect from her fellow housemates here as well. So I feel like for her coming to the show, even though it's sad to see her here go before the final, she gained a lot by being on the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think she's gained a lot, but I think one of the issues is with Kendall is, okay, Mark experience aside, is that people don't really have faith that she's going to be a really good partner, that she's going to work really hard for them to be there. It seems like she always kind of had one foot out the door, or anything she's okay with leaving. And so that's kind of like a shaky position if everything's riding on this other person and you don't know if they want to be there and you're not really friends with them. I think that also really played into how people treated her in the house. It's like they wanted people that they could rely on, that they knew wanted to be there, that wasn't going to be okay with going home. Even though she has proven herself, yes, she's an amazing competitor. Yes, when she puts on the gas, like she goes. But I still don't personally even have that full trust that, like, if she was my partner, I'd be like, okay, we're winning this for sure. I'd still be hesitant. So I think that it's like people are a little bit nervous with her, having her as a partner. And then on top of that, I think the girls or the women in this season, they didn't want to go against her either, since it's a solo thing. So it might have been different if it was a pair season, but it was solo. So they're not friends with her. Let's get rid of her because she's good.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we do get Janae quite early on here in the episode say that she feels quite intimidated by Kendall because Kendall seems to be someone that's quite fearless. She goes down there, gets the job done. She's come back more than once. Obviously, if you win a couple of eliminations in a season, then you kind of build a bit of an aura about you, because I do feel like, having form is such a big importance when you go into these seasons, and winning one after the other gives you that confidence. Is why we see certain people throughout the challenge history you sort of go in there and win one after the other. Obviously, the one that sort of sticks closest in mind for me is one of the recent seasons where you had Tori and Jordan go in there and win a bunch of the eliminations when they went in. I believe it was in Total Madness that they went in and had to sort of win their way to the end. Oh, no, it wasn't Total. It was the one before that.
War of the Worlds 2.
Yes, the one that Jordan ends up winning with the rest of his teammates there at the end. But definitely an interesting sort of season by her. I do think Kendall also sort of says towards the end there that she came into the season not really believing in herself, and she kind of had to regain that belief in herself. And it's really funny. I know we're jumping all over the place, but it's kind of relevant to this. When Yasela goes into the elimination, Yasela says that she doesn't need to prove herself to anyone. She just needs to remind people that she's a badass. And I look at Yasela and I think to myself, and again, I could be wrong. I didn't see her previous seasons, but what did she do to prove herself previously? And how does she have all this confidence going into this elimination?
I think that she's always kind of had a little bit of a mouth, and she's like won a few like group challenges. I can't remember. Hold on. She was on the Gauntlet 2. I think was the last thing that she was on, I think. And I think her team won a few times. And so she has a little bit of vibrato of being a vet back in the day. And so I think that, vets, people just didn't mess with the vets. They had I'm a vet. I've done this before. And she's from Road Rules. And so I find also people from Road Rules had a little bit more like competitive arrogance to them, just because they already did those kind of competitions on their season, as opposed to Real World. They were just like living in a house and maybe working together, but they didn't have to do anything extreme. So I think that that's probably why she's considering herself to be a badass, is that she came through the Road Rules, evolution story.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, if you could bottle that confidence of Yasela and sell it, you could make a lot of money from it. So I love it. I feel like, half of the battle is mental. And if you've got that strong mental belief in yourself that you can go out there and kick ass against anyone, then, 100% hats off to you. The other thing that we see here in the early parts is we have Mark, Derek, and Nehemiah having a bit of a conversation there on the couches. And, Nehemiah is saying, Mark, you did us a favor by taking out a very strong competitor here because obviously Luterian's gone home now. And now Maya jokes that Derek, you wouldn't have been able to do it. And then we get Derek's backstory. So now I'm getting ready to be disappointed again because now I'm starting to get behind my number one pick, Derek, who, there's this whole story about him having not played for so long, him wanting to win an individual. He's never won an individual challenge, So Derek's my new, person that I'm going to have to get behind here because I love Derek in any case.
Okay, well, maybe the edit is doing this to you so that it's to build you up so he does get the win at the end. So maybe this is, the knock him down before they're going to build him up at the end. So maybe this is them telling the Derek win story, or it could also be telling the Derek comes in second story.
I would so hate it if that happens now because I'm invested now in Derek's story. He's like the next person I'm gravitating towards. And I'm like, Derek, I want you to do it. I want you to win this individual. But my brain is telling me that Derek is going to have a tough time against the competitors that he's going up against here in the end. I mean, Darrell still has to be the favorite at this point. Has Darrell ever lost a final that he's actually competed in?
No.
So there you go.
Basically like every final that Darrell has been in, which has been 4, he's won. So there's been times that he's played, obviously, that he hasn't made it to the final because of whatever, early purge or shitty partner or whatnot. But he's good. I feel like Yasela is one of those confident people who constantly talks herself up so she believes it. Yeah, she could be that. I mean, I think that she used to be smaller. So maybe also the fact that she's, gained a lot of weight comparatively to beforehand, maybe she needs to have a little bit more of I'm confident in my body. I'm a confident woman just to maybe
it's
overshadow.
Attractive, by the way. I find that super, I'm like, Yasela, you're coming across as even more attractive just with that attitude that you have and that confidence, So I can see how she has landed someone as alpha as Elton on this season because that kind of confidence, it's a turn on for men, So I get it, and I'm all here for it. To be honest with you, I love Yasela's confidence. Like I said, if you could bottle that, a lot of people would pay for it, and she could make a lot of money from it. So that's awesome that she's got that. And we also see here early on, Chantal, Yasela and Anissa. They spent some time outside together under a blanket and talk about the fact that, if Anissa and her were in jail, I don't know how the prison talk came up here, that they would be girlfriends, and that Yasela would need to learn how to braid hair, which she said she could do. But we more importantly find out a lot about their relationship outside of the Challenge house, which I think up until this point, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it was something that a lot of Challenge fans weren't even aware of, that these two were so close because Yasela has been so far removed from the Challenge world for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really heard very much about Yasela. I guess she hasn't been necessarily relevant. Anything that I've heard about Anissa has been about people that are on the show at that time. And so any interaction that she had or any events that she was going to or who she was hanging out with. And so it usually was the Challenge related. So I also never really knew that they were keeping in touch, but they did have a pretty good friendship in some of the older seasons, including, I think it was the Gauntlet 2, that they were on the same team together. And so they won quite a few challenges together back then. And they were hugging, and I can't remember, one of them left. When she left, when Yasela left, they were just like, oh my God, we're gonna be friends for life type thing. So there has been moments where they had some, you can tell that they had a good relationship in the game. I just didn't know that it's been lasting these last 16 or so years.
Yeah, and I think there's a different level of friendship that is involved when you start getting someone from the Challenge world to know your kids. I feel like if you get people to know your kids, then it becomes, that's why Yasela takes this whole episode. She takes that relationship or the betrayal between her and Anissa so serious because it's a different level of friendship compared to these people that see each other every couple of years on a challenge and then they don't see each other that often. She's kind of seeing Anissa as somebody that's like a family friend that will come over for dinner, type of thing, which is very different. And I think it's a lot more intimate probably here. So I understand why Yasela felt the way that she felt towards the end. But I guess we'll get a little bit more into that as we continue throughout the episode. We also here in the early part have a really funny scene here with Jimmy, Kellyanne, Yasela all being in the house. All the guys are training outside. We get the classic training segment. And Jimmy, being the cheeky person that she is, says, "Hey, Mark, take off your top," and he pretends like he's going to take it off, and she then says that, Mark is the kind of guy that you get as a stripper for your mom's birthday, where she wouldn't feel so bad having him there because he's kind of her age in any case. And it's just a really funny scene overall because you see all three girls thirsting over Mark in this episode.
Absolutely. I love that scene. And this is what I guess I'm missing from like the challenge proper, is that like there's just a bit of lightheartedness and playful energy between everybody. In the actual daily challenge, you see Derek and Yasela with the microphone, and they're kind of pretending to be news anchor people. They probably brought that to the table for the challenge people. And so I just was like, I really appreciate seeing these moments of like just them having a good time and enjoying the people that they're there with. So I definitely smiled. I definitely loved it. I was like, you go get him, Mark. All 50 years of you still got it. I'll let you have it. I'll call you the Godfather. It's no problem.
Now, I was going to ask you, you kind of jumped in there on the news anchor scene, which I found really funny in this episode as well. And we all know that the challenge is starting to see themselves as the United States' next big sport, So would you endorse these two news anchors or commentators to go out there and do some of this commentary for us in the actual seasons when it's happening?
I would love that, to be honest. I mean, and I love anybody that's been on the challenge talking about the challenge. And that's why I'm always kind of like irritated, but when they choose somebody outside of the challenge universe to host any of the actor shows, because I like that people... they have beautiful, talented people that we're comfortable with, that we've already gotten to know. And the reason why I'm a super fan is because I've gotten to know these people for the last 20 or so years. And so I love seeing people within the universe, get a promotion and do something different within the challenge. So I would love for the two of them to do that. That would be amazing, especially like Derek. He's been doing his own podcast, so he definitely has the chops to be interviewing and talking about the challenge. So 100%, I endorse it. They're both funny and they're both really great to look at. So I love it.
Yeah, no, I liked it as well, and I think it could be quite funny having some past players. I mean, it's the reason why they have ex-sports stars be commentators on actual sporting events, because they actually understand the little intricacies of what it takes to do well in a challenge, or what it takes to do well. And I mean, it could be that they do it in the actual daily challenge, but I guess we get very chopped versions of the daily challenge, so it would be interesting to see how they would edit that together. But I'm sure they could find a way. If Survivor could find a way for the Island of the Idols and bring Boston Rob back and Sandra, then surely we can find a way to bring some great players back in the challenge and make that a bit of a twist for a season.
No, I mean, that could be interesting. I mean, I guess they kind of have that when they did Fresh Meat, and I think this new season 37 will be kind of like vets versus like newbies, and then also US versus UK or outside of the US. So I guess it's kind of like having a coaches type season. With Fresh Meat's kind of a coaches type season. So they've kind of done it, but it would be interesting if like they did.
I've got it.
What?
I've got it, Chantal. Let me pitch the idea. All right, this is what we do, right? We get two teams out there to take each other on. Both teams get a coach, a captain, but the coach and the captain, they're playing their own game for their own win. So whoever captains or coaches the winning team at the end of the season, they get their own $250,000 or $200,000, whatever it is. That way, you could bring back some of the best players to ever play the game, the best common people that do the and they don't have to play. So you're guaranteed to have like a Johnny Bananas do commentary until the end of the season. I feel like it's a win-win. I'm surprised they haven't tried that before, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I love that. Season was it 14 of Big Brother US? They had four coaches come in and they had to draft their teams and stuff like that. And I thought it would have been great if they just kept it like that. Like instead of allowing the coaches to potentially, hi Andrea. Oh, no, Andre, it's Andre. They corrected me before. And so yes, I wanted them to stay as just coaches, and they brought them into the game, and I didn't like that element of it, because it's just kind of like, no, if it's going to be an all-star season, let it be all-stars. If it's not, just like, let's just leave them be coaches, please. And so I would love that, I think.
Yeah, 100%. So Speaking the Truth is agreeing with us here. They do say that it doesn't need to necessarily be a twist. They can just do commentary on the actual challenges, which I agree. I think that could be really fun. I'm all for spicing it up, to be honest with you, Chantel, because I feel like these last couple of seasons for me have become really dull. And especially if we look at what the early speculation is, and I don't know, we don't want to go off too far off from this actual episode and this great season that we're seeing. But again, it feels like it's going to be more of the same old for season 37 as well. I feel like they need to be more creative with what they're doing to keep people interested in watching. And if some of these older challenge stars that are legends and people love seeing them on the TV can come back and potentially play their own game. I'm not saying you change the format of the show every single season, but that's the beauty of the challenge. And that's what I love about the challenge, is that every season can be its own thing. And there can be different twists and different game formats going from one season to the next season as well. Andre is very happy with Big Easy. I'm happy with Big Easy as well. I'm gutted, though, that I lost my Tenderoni, who's been my favorite for the whole season. But I do give it to Big Easy. He's had a great episode here as well. Now, Chantel, we're going into the challenge here, and the challenge, we do get everybody standing there and wondering, where is TJ? And TJ does one of his normal intros that is badass, and he stands on top of this truck coming in, and we know that it's going to be one of these really cool challenges that we've seen in recent years, with people having to go and jump from podium to podium and then having to collect balls and putting it back in their net to actually score points here. This challenge really reminds me, and I don't know if you can relate to this or not, it reminds me of when I was a kid, when I used to play Nintendo or Game Boy, and you had all these things with these little characters running around, jumping from one platform to the other platform. It reminds me of that. But I bet you when you're out there doing it, it's petrifying to jump from one of these sort of podiums or one of these beams to another beam on there, because the truck's moving. So you have to actually take that into account as well when you're jumping.
Absolutely. It was like Sonic the Hedgehog as real people. No, I definitely thought it was a pretty scary challenge. And I think it was Ruthie that telegraphed it quite well. It's like, oh, it's really easy when you're going out, like against the direction of the truck, because like it's moving towards you. So it's easy to make these jumps. But when you're going the same direction as the truck, it was a lot more difficult, especially because she's quite small. I think it was a pretty scary, seemingly scary if you're not too tall. It didn't seem like there was any sort of variation if like you had shorter or longer limbs. So it seems like the men are going to do better than the women were, just because most likely they're going to be taller. So I thought it was a challenging one, and I thought it was a nice little homage to like the newer season, to be like, you know, explosions that TJ likes and like the high, you know, special effects production value. But yeah, no, I liked it. I definitely liked the challenge. It's hard though.
Yeah, so I got a bit confused in this challenge a little bit, Chantel, because I thought the actual main goal for the challenge was to stay on your platform as you were jumping through it, and whoever got the furthest while staying on their platform would automatically be ahead of someone falling off the platform. And you get a couple of people here falling off their platform. I believe Yes was the one person that completely fell off the platform at one stage, but he doesn't end up being the last person. Big Easy is still the last person, even though Big Easy never fell off the platform, right?
How did this happen? How many did Yes get in? Because I'm wondering if like did Yes get 2 in and fall off, like, you know what I mean, with the timing.
It's probably who got
it?
the furthest. Yeah, it's probably whoever got the furthest or landed the most balls before they fell off. Because what confused me was the commentary or the confessionals by Anissa early on saying, I just need to get further than Yasela and stay on the platform for me to be able to win. And I think Jimmy had the same strategy, to just stay on the platform and get further than Yasela in this case. But so apparently, according to Andre, Yes did get 2 in, so fair enough. If he got 2 in and then Big Easy only got 1 in, then maybe that's the main reason why we see Yes being ahead of Big Easy in this case. Still, I was impressed by Big Easy because this didn't look like a challenge that was going to suit him. I mean, we see Yasela and Anissa really struggling here, being two of the people on there that are not the tallest. And also, if you're someone that's a bit on the heavier side, then jumping and moving your body mass from one platform to the other is not the easiest thing. And some of those platforms, Chantal, were really far apart. I was really shocked. Like, hats off to Ruthie for trying to give it a go, and she ends up landing in underneath one of the platforms and holds on for dear life until the end without falling off. I thought she had a pretty good performance because this challenge was completely stacked against her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she, we heard her last week say that she loves heights and she loves doing these like fear stunts and stuff like that. And so I think that she gets an adrenaline kick out of like giving it a go. And so, you were asking at the beginning of when we were doing our drafts, like, what is it about Ruthie? Why do you guys love Ruthie so much? And it's because she's just willing to like go for that jump. I've never really seen any fear in Ruthie, and she's always ready to give it a go. And yeah, she showed it here as well. Like, she's probably the smallest girl, but she has the most fire and she's ready to get it done.
Yeah, so Big Easy got a time penalty for touching the rig, so that counted against him as well there. Just to touch back on Ruthie, so obviously I didn't know much about her coming into this season, but I've been super impressed by her. If I could do my next draft next season, then she's going to be that much higher in my draft pickings going into that, giving a little bit of my game plan away here for Chantal if we do choose another draft pick. Well, I'll fight you for her this time. We'll do rock, paper, scissors.
I mean, I now know your style though, so I definitely will. I'll choose differently as well. Strategically.
Yeah. Well, I came into this season with more limited knowledge compared to yourself and Mike, so I had to look at it a little bit differently in how I was going to choose people. I do still feel pretty confident about most of the people that I have in my draft, which we'll go into later on. But like I said, I feel like even though you're down in numbers at this stage, you probably, you've got the best person in there with Darrell still being in your team. I really think that the only thing with Darrell that surprises me, and it consistently surprises me, Chantal, is we don't see much confessionals from him. But whenever we do see a confessional, it's normally on point and it's normally really good. So I feel like we're being cheated out of more Darrell moments on the show. But I guess there's so many good people out there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely find because it's only 45 minutes that they're packing into these episodes that they don't have as many confessional accounts for everybody. It's just kind of like, who's telling the main story this episode? Let's just document that. Also with Darrell, like, he's always like, in the later years, he stopped being part of the drama because, what was it? Is it Ruins, I think, that he ended up like beating up on somebody and like right before, like he was already going to the final and he punched Brad. Oh my God, Brad's eye. Ugh.
Yeah.
Like that's like
Brad didn't know what he was getting himself in for.
And so he missed out on the final. And since that moment, I really haven't seen Darrell lose his cool. And so he's not going to be really involved in that much drama or anything anymore. He just is kind of like the funny commentator. And so that's probably also why we're not seeing that much of him, is because like he's most likely not going to get put in. And yeah, so I'm devastated too, Andre. She is on my team, and I'm not that big of a fan for Kendall, but I was growing to really appreciate the fact that she was doing so well, and she was starting to want to be there. But Darrell, we might see more of him maybe in the next episode.
Yeah, and also there's rumors he's coming back for the next season. So I'm just glad that Darrell is back on the radar. Is that still the case, Chantal? I know you're normally more in touch with these things than myself. Is Darrell still rumored to be on season 37? Because I know he was in the running at some stage.
I think he's still on there. I think all the players that we know are still like him, CT, Tori, Anissa, Nani, Josh, Casey. Those are all the ones that I can remember. Kyle, of course, Kyle. I'm happy.
Devin, Guy Devin as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously Kyle's just gone up, but I don't want to go down too far on season 37. But I'm just really happy that Darrell has put himself back out on the map, because he's kind of disappeared for a couple of seasons where they didn't really ask him to come back. But now and it also probably had to do with his business, right? Because he had his own business that he was doing for quite a while. And then I heard an interview where he said that his business was affected quite severely by the pandemic. So that has freed him up more to be able to come back and do these things. So, obviously we never want anything bad to happen to someone in their personal life and what they've got going on. But for us as viewers, I think we're all very happy to have Darrell back on our screens and to see him compete in these shows.
Yeah, I think also he was like pissed. He's like, I'm not letting these new kids come in there and get $1 million for doing nothing. I've done 4 of these and I've like barely made 250 grand. Like, so I think that also that being like, I can do that, I can get the bag, like also probably has made him want to be part of the conversation again, because it's like, no. Ashley Mitchell is going to come in and be over a millionaire when like he's put his life into the show for 20 years and he has not even made a quarter of that. So I think that also might be incentive, is the fact that they raised that final prize to such a high amount now.
I don't know if you want me to take that one or if you want to take it, Chantel.
Take it.
So I think that, as far as I'm aware, and speaking the truth, you let me know if that's still the case, that Darrell has put itself out there that he would like to fight one of the Paul brothers, but I don't know if they've actually responded back to him yet to actually do it. I do think that Darrell is someone that's got a lot of experience. He's still in shape. He's an actual boxer, where the Paul brothers, they've got some natural talent. More so, I believe it's Jake Paul that's the one that's got more of the actual raw talent. But I actually think Darrell would beat them, to be honest. I don't know if there's much of an advantage for the Paul brothers to do it, because they've got such a bigger following. They've got more to lose by getting whipped by someone like Darrell, who isn't as well known as them on it. But I'm all for it. I think Darrell putting himself out there doing it, why not? He's going to get paid a couple of million to do it. So why not do it? He'll get paid more doing that than what he would do in any challenge.
Well, and I think also, though, like it's a pretty good ploy on Darrell's part to be challenging them here, being like, "Hey, like fight me if you want to fight an actual boxer, like take me on." And I think it's just would be hard for them to say no, because like I don't know, like why are you saying no? Are you afraid you're going to lose? So I'm wondering if the egos of these men will come into play and the fight will happen. So I want to see the fight. I want to see Darrell win.
So Andre says that Yasela on Instagram Live said that she tore her ACL, meniscus, and fractured her fibula. Yeah, that's pretty bad. And I mean, how's that going to affect her now going into the final here, Chantel?
I mean, okay, I love Yasela. She's on my team, but I don't really have that much faith in her winning the final. A lot of it has to do with endurance, and she didn't excel when they did that mini final. So with the fact that she's also injured now, unfortunately, I really don't, unless maybe there's like a big swimming portion, so where you're not going to have any pressure on your leg. But it's usually like running for like hours and standing on like a stump overnight. Like there's just a lot of on your like weight on your leg. I just don't see her being able to run it well.
Yeah, I think she's going to struggle. I don't think she was a favorite going into the final in any case. I love having her, similar to Anissa, and I'm sure we'll get into the Anissa and Yasela portion of it a little bit later on. Again, I don't want to get too much into Yasela injuring herself either, because that takes away from the latter part of the episode where we're going to talk about what happened with Big Easy kind of having to step up in that scenario. But I do want to sort of finish off with the challenge portion here. For me, probably the biggest surprise of all here was Mark actually pulling it off. I thought this was Derek's one to win, because Derek, I've seen him train, I've seen his Instagram, he's an absolute madman. Like they talk about Elton being really good at climbing and all these kind of things. I've looked at Derek's training regime and how much time he spends practicing climbing, how much time he practices jumping from podium to podium, doing like parkour type of training. And this is very much in Derek's wheelhouse. I think the only thing here that really counted, like if it comes to who had the better base athletic ability to do better at this challenge, it was Derek. But where it comes down to is pure physics here, and purely the fact that Mark is a taller person than Derek. I mean, I was looking at him stepping between those podiums, and he was pretty much leaping, just stretching out to the next one. He nearly didn't even have to jump. So it really came down to him just being a taller person than Derek and doing this quicker, not taking anything away from Mark. I think for him to be able to beat everyone here as a 50-year-old man, it's still really impressive. Like, I would do anything to be in the shape that Mark is in when I turn 50, and I probably won't be there, but I take my hat off for him. But really big surprise for me seeing Mark pull it out here for the guys.
Well, this is the thing with Mark. Like, he's always just been pretty good at everything. Like he has the charisma and charm to have only seen those 2 eliminations in his entire challenge history. And well, Road Rules is different, but like it's just like he's just really good. And so it didn't surprise me at all that Mark took it, because I just kind of expected him to do really well.
So question on that, Chantal. If Mark were to have a superpower, we see him here with his cape and he's got the clothes on and they do the little CGI, which was really funny. What would Mark's superpower be if he does become the Godfather superhero?
I don't know, abs at 50? I don't know. I'm a superhero of abs at 50.
I feel like he would be one of those people that would be able to steal powers from other people. Since you said he's good at everything, he would probably be able to, like, if he's close to someone that can fly, he can absorb that and also fly. If he's close to someone that could teleport and he's close to that, suddenly he can take that and kind of like a leech power. He leeches the power of the people that are closest to him. So he's got a little bit of everything,
That's a good power. I'm going to remember that. I mean, people are always like, so what would your superpower be? I'm just like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't want one. But that's a good one. Like a little power chameleon or power leech. That's awesome. But I think he is kind of like that. I think that he's just very adaptable. He can figure out how to do things quite quickly. Like, he's not really good at puzzles. I think that's his only weakness. But like everything else, he's always decent at. And so I didn't expect him to do poorly. I thought he was going to tie though, maybe Derek, and it would come down to like who went further, but he just actually just beat him flat out, which was really funny. I have a question for you though. And I'm wondering if this is just me picking up on something or if it was a real thing, but I felt as though Jemmy had a little bit of disdain when she was speaking about Derek. So she's kind of like, yeah, Derek's already over here celebrating. And then like the Godfather, he like beats him. Like, she was super excited when she was talking about Mark. And I felt that she was kind of like annoyed or irritated by Derek. So I noticed that then. And then there's another time that we'll talk about in a minute that I noticed it as well. And I was wondering if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I did pick that up, and I didn't know if it was just because, Derek's got a very out there personality. He's a lot to take in for some people, and maybe it's the fact that he was starting to celebrate before he even won, because you saw him on the sidelines get really excited every time people failed and they couldn't get past him. And maybe Jemmy just didn't really appreciate the fact that Derek was celebrating it so much and that he felt like he already had it in the bag, because, there's probably more going on there behind the scenes, but definitely, I think we'll talk about that later on with nominations, because I think there's a couple of interesting things there happening as well, where we could talk about both what Jemmy did and what Derek did, because obviously that comes back up again at that point. I also just wanted to bring out here that, Kellyanne finally beating Kendall. That's the storyline that we were sort of waiting for throughout the season, because Kellyanne kept saying, like, listen, Kendall's beating me at all of these things, and she actually thought that Kendall would beat her again at this, but finally Kellyanne gets the opportunity here to knock Kendall off. And I think that if Kendall didn't win this one, I feel like if Kellyanne didn't win this one, I feel like Kellyanne would have been the person that was called down. So I feel like Kellyanne really needed to win this, and I actually feel like, again, I want to talk a bit about this, more about how Nehemiah lost. I think Kellyanne with Nehemiah still loses this challenge. Put that hot take out there. I still think that happens.
I don't know. Okay, the thing is that Kellyanne has done more of these challenges, and so she would have been able to maybe offer a little bit more assistance, with like taking off the rings, whatever. Like they weren't really in sync with that. And however they were arranging the rings on the wall, there wasn't sort of enough cohesion for them to build the ladder. So I feel as though Kellyanne, though, has just more experience and that her voice would have been heard more than Kendall's voice, because Kendall didn't really help out that situation that much. And so I don't know necessarily if she would still have lost with Nehemiah. I think they would have had a better shot at winning because she just has more experience.
Here's my
doing
question.
More stuff. Mm-hmm.
Here's my question. Would Nehemiah, because Kellyanne's personality is one that takes charge, and she's a super intense person, and that's why I look at it and I'm like, if she's out there, she would have been really intense trying to win this thing. Do you think Nehemiah would have listened to her and be happy to be the second person in charge? Because the thing that I think, and I know we're jumping ahead a little bit here, this is my hot take towards the end of this. I think it counted in Big Easy's favor that Yasela injured herself early in this challenge. I feel like this challenge was one of those challenges where if one person completes it, it's actually easier to do it than, like you just rightfully said, two people trying to fight to get the ring in at the same time. I actually think it worked in their favor that Yasela couldn't help Big Easy throughout this, and it actually gave Big Easy that time to think, put one in at a time without fighting the person on the other side. So what I'm wondering is, would Kellyanne have been really stubborn and trying to get things, and I know it's a lot of hypotheticals here, how would that dynamic have played out? Do you think that Nehemiah would have been able to sit back? Because he also seems like when he goes into beast mode, he gets quite intense and kind of gets tunnel vision in what he's trying to do.
I mean, okay, I think that Nehemiah still would have been the one that climbed, but I think that he would have, like, Kellyanne would have been like, no, pull this one, and like maybe giving him a little bit of assistance. So, yeah. You caught the shade too? Okay.
So you're not the only one, Chantal. There's definitely there was a little bit of shade thrown there. And Jimmy is the queen of throwing shade this season as well. The whole season, she's been great in all of those confessionals. Now, we find out here that Mark and Kellyanne is safe as houses. They're not going to be going anywhere. They are going straight to the final for this challenge, which is excellent. But now the decision needs to be made, because obviously Big Easy and Yasela here, they're going to be the bottom two people going into the arena immediately. So they're going to have to make a decision on who will be facing Big Easy and Yasela. And Big Easy and Yasela have got very different ideas of who they would like to see down there against them. For instance, Big Easy talks to Derek, Darrell, I think it was Janae and Anissa in the room, and he says that he would prefer to go against Nehemiah. Derek, very smartly here, he does play a good social game. I think sometimes it gets missed, but he sort of throws out there that Nehemiah's been talking shit the whole season, probably talking shit about, how he can beat everyone. And this is the things we didn't see because the edit protected Nehemiah from that. I feel like until quite recently, we saw a little bit of Nehemiah doing that to Derek, where he said to Derek in the beginning of this episode, you would not have been able to beat Laterian. So definitely that type of thing, I think, would rub people the wrong way. But Derek kind of throws that back there to Big Easy to make the target Nehemiah. And Big Easy is more than happy to go up against Nehemiah compared to a Derek, a Yes, who he's never seen in any elimination, or a Darrell, because he knows Derek and Darrell are pretty strong. And then the bomb drop of all bomb drops here, Chantal, is Anissa saying that if someone chooses me to go down there and fight with them, then I will throw it. And I feel like that's the right thing to do in this situation, because she's been burned so many times that I feel like people might think, actually, Anissa might actually do it because she's just that upset.
Yeah, I mean, it I can see both sides of it being like, oh, it looks like she's being a bad sport here. Like, she should have been better strategically, like with her votes, if she didn't want to be the one that they might pick to go down there. But definitely, though, I can see, though, from her point of view, it's like, I'm going to put the fear in you that I'm going to fail you so that you wouldn't even want to take that risk. And so I can see how people would be annoyed by them throwing out that kind of ultimatum, but like, she's doing whatever she can to get to the final. And I can't really hate her as much as everybody in the house hated her for her decisions this episode. I just don't.
Nah. No, same. So I don't hate Anissa for how she played this episode. I mean, the goal of the game, and it is a game. I understand it's hard. There's personal relationships involved. People have known each other for years. Yasela and Anissa, their friendship goes a lot further than just this game, and it's obviously developed a lot outside of the house, which is something that people bring into this. But I feel like, maybe you have this conversation with your friends before you go and play it, and you say to them, listen, this is a game. Like, we at some point might have to go up against each other. Let's not take it personal. I look at a Tori and an Anissa having to go up against each other in season 36. There was no hard feelings against each one of them, like with Anissa taking Tori out, they do a podcast together now and all that. So I feel like sometimes people take it too personal. I don't blame Anissa for that. The one thing that I'm the most happy about with Anissa actually making it to a final between me and you, Chantel, is that hopefully we never have to hear again that I just want to make a final, because that storyline for me has gotten old. I've heard it enough. I do feel for her, but there, like Jemme sort of says at the party when she's talking to Yasela, there is a reason if you're not making these finals all the time. Like at some point you also need to take ownership of your own game that you're playing, or the fact that you weren't able to win your way to the end, and accept that, because this is a game where people need to get voted out left, right, and center. But because she's been burned so many times, because we see the flashback of her having come so close over so many years here, I don't blame her for saying to them, listen, if you choose me to go down there, I'm throwing it, because I think that's the best strategy that she could use in this stage to deter people from wanting to get her to go down there and do it with her, with them. Because at the end of the day, Anissa is one of the best people we've ever seen in elimination. She's won a lot of these eliminations. You could argue to say, yes, she's lost as many as she's won, but some of the best players out there, they don't win every single elimination.
Yeah,
sometimes it's in your favor and sometimes it's not. Yeah, 100%.
It's kind of like I just watched Rivals 2, and it's pretty devastating when her and DM didn't get to go to the final, like, because they had been through a lot together. And so I know that people are just like, oh, you have to win your way there. And I get that you don't want to hear that storyline. I'm kind of bored of that storyline as well. But it's kind of like what she's being judged on in the new seasons by, is being like, oh, like, you're not capable of running the final. You can't do this. And they're kind of cutting her out beforehand. And she's not even getting an opportunity to change that story and that dynamic, because she keeps on going out right beforehand. So I do think with her even making the final, and depending on how well she does, I do think it will shift that storyline, because it's a completely different outcome than it has been for the last 15 years. So yes, we will get a shift in story with Anissa. Hopefully, I mean, maybe not in the real seasons, because I still don't think that people are going to want to run with her, but at least she won't be saying that she can't make it to a final anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's no point in, even if she says it, it's surely not going to make any screen time, because she's just done a final, unless the storyline is, I want to make a final in a proper challenge season that's not All-Stars. So I don't know. Yeah, or win. That's probably going to become the next thing. But I'll make a very bold statement out there. I don't think Anissa's ever winning a challenge. Like, I mean, if she goes out and win this one, hats off to her. I just don't think that, like you said earlier, some of the best people in the game, like your Marks and that, they're all-rounders. You have to be an all-rounder. And until she works on the things that she's not great at, like stamina and endurance, she's not going to win this, right?
Yes, and like that's always been what she's not been good at. So the fact that she hasn't improved on that and maybe has gone more in the other direction, and yes, it's age, and you're going to have less maybe stamina because you're not training as much as you used to when you're younger. I get it. But if she wants to be competing with people that do train and run all the time, if she wants to win, she's going to have to get on their level and not just be carried to a final and then potentially carry a teammate down. So if I was Anissa, I would go and get jacked. I would be like at every CrossFit gym. Like I would be dive training. Like I would be doing everything that I could to come back as like the next Jenny. And I would come back in winning physical condition. So people would be like, oh, she came here to win. When you come a little bit soft, like, it just doesn't look like you are as serious as you are saying that you are. So if she wants people to take her seriously, I just really do think that she's going to have to get her body into physical shape that is capable of winning a final, because I really haven't seen anybody that isn't in very, very, very good shape win a final. Like everybody has been. Can you think of anybody that hasn't? Like,
no, I agree with you. And I think that also finals kind of lean very much towards the endurance, having to be a good runner type of thing. So if you're not good, like you could be great at puzzles, you could be great at doing circus trick type challenges and things like that, or just have these interesting skill sets that help you with the off the beat type of challenges. But the one thing you cannot look away from is you have to be able to run. It's one of the reasons why I still think, and again, I won't touch on it too much, Fessy and Casey, they were never going to win that final because they're not better runners than some of the other people that were out there running against them. They were decent, but I still think that CT and Amber B probably wins that regardless, because CT isn't, and that's the thing with CT. I just take my hat off to him because he's not built like a runner, but the guy can run, so give him that, And Amber B, just insane how she apparently she ran ahead in a lot of these things. We didn't see it, to go and look what was coming up ahead, and then ran back to CT to tell him what the next puzzle was going to be even before they got there. That's how fit she was and running back and forth. It's pretty impressive stuff.
And they were an hour ahead of the second and third teams coming in, so they were up in front, 100%. Like, they definitely. That's what's so hard about the challenge, is being able to run for days, like literally run for days. We've seen so many people gas out. Like, I think Maddie gassed out, Georgia I think gassed out in these finals. Like Holly gassing out. Like, it's just,
and he's fit.
And I think Cara Maria's gassed out before and had to get, like, she didn't want to get an IV and, like, all that stuff. And so, like, you have to be able to run long distance and climb mountains. Like, and climbing mountains are really hard. I've done it before. It sucks. And, I'm in a bit better physical conditions than Aneesa. So I would love Aneesa to win, but I really think that she needs to get her body into a winner's physique.
100%. Now, I also want to touch on Yasela here before we go into the nomination, because like I mentioned, Yasela's got a different strategy compared to Big Easy in this case. So clearly they're not on the same page with who they want to see down there. And we're kind of seeing a little bit of where the potential allegiances are within the house. And Yasela, she tries to aim for Yes in this case, or Darrell, because both of them, and I think her just putting Darrell's name out there is absolute craziness. If she wants to go home, get Darrell to go down there and face you. But she kind of wants it to be someone, she wants it to be fair. It needs to be someone that hasn't been down there yet. And she feels like going for anyone that's already been down there, that's just not the way to play the game. What did you think of Yasela's strategy in this case? Because it's kind of hard. Like, I understand she's got allegiances with Nehemiah and some of the guys, and that's how she probably doesn't want to see Elton there. But it's a very difficult strategy to sell to people. Let's play fair. Let's just put the person in there that hasn't been down there yet. This isn't a red skull twist or a gold skull twist, right? Anybody can go down.
I mean, okay, I get you make your pitch as to how you want to play the game and how you have been playing the game. And if you want to pick a name out of a hat because you want to be fair, that's all on you. But I agree with actually Aneesa in general being like, this is a different game than it was however many years ago. I think I mentioned this on this podcast before, is like, nobody really liked Richard that won the first season of Survivor, because they didn't like the strategic element, and they didn't like people turning on their allies. They didn't like that side of people. And so a lot of people really were coming for Richard with, like, the fact that he was bringing strategy. Remember, there was a guy that was, I think it was a doctor. He was picking, like, wanted to pick names out of a hat, or like give everybody a number and pick a number, like whatever it was. But it was something completely random on who was going to go home. And Richard's like, I'm not going to have my game be faded by a pick out of a hat. And so that's where kind of the evolution of, like, strategy of these competition games started. And so when Yasela was playing was around the beginning and around those times where strategy wasn't a thing. It was more so fair. It was more so like, you go down, you go prove yourself. It was more so like, let's honor, like, the vets and the newbies. They have to go in and prove themselves. So, like, yes, it was like that in the past, but it has, I think, changed. And if people don't want to just allow their fate to be like, oh, well, it's my turn to go in, maybe it'll be something I'm good for and maybe I'll stay. Like, no, there's too much money on the line for you to be playing a fair game. Like, if I don't want to go in, I'm going to make a pitch that's going to get somebody else that I want to go in. And if I want one of my friends to stay more than I want someone else to stay, I might do that as well. And so I get her sentiments, but it's a little bit old school. And I wasn't on her side for the most part with how upset she's been.
Yeah, 100%. I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there with how you're looking at it, and I can't agree more. It is just a different era, and clearly some of these people have not continued to sort of stay up to date with where the challenge has moved as a show. It's one of the reasons, again, for me, why I'm so disappointed that the season is going to be cut short here now, because we're finally seeing people needing to make moves against the best interest of some of their friends or allegiance members, and people are starting to get upset. And you even have Darrell here at the end of the nomination saying that, it's only just starting to get good now with people turning against each other. And he's like, damn, and I feel like Darrell is like one of us sitting on the couch saying that, why is it being like, obviously he loves the fact that he can go straight to the final now because, they're stupid enough to have kept them there to go into this final. But I think as a fan, you're looking at this and you're saying that the show could have been extremely good if we had 2 or 3 more rounds with this twist playing out. So I'm hoping that we see this similar twist come back, or the All-Stars next season, season 2, they add 2 or 3 episodes to it or something like that. Whatever it's going to be, I'm hoping we can get it right, because it is on the streaming platform. So it's not like they need to fit it into a certain schedule on a TV network to be able to do it. Like, they can choose how many episodes they want on a streaming platform, surely.
Yeah, I think that they just weren't sure if it was going to work or not. And so I think they're trying it out with Paramount, seeing if it's going to work, seeing if it's drawing the viewers. I think what would be best for them is to make it, a 12, 13 episode season, which is pretty standard for a season. Open up Paramount Plus viewing to Canadians, because I know so many Canadians having a really hard time being able to watch the challenge, and they're huge fans in Canada. And so I hope that they would open up their streaming for All Stars 2 to Canada. I think that they would have a hit, and so I would expect it's going to be renewed. It hasn't been renewed as of yet, from what I've heard or not heard. But I think 13 episodes, maybe a similar but different twist. Allow that twist to play out for a little bit longer, and open it up to Canadians. And I think that they have like a nice little moneymaker on their hands.
They're losing revenue as it stands, because what they don't realize is that if you limit this show from being in certain countries, fans will find a way to watch it. There's ways to get your hands on the episode. So people in Canada are still watching it. People around the world, fans, because we now know that the challenge have got fans around the world. Like, I was surprised at how many fans of the challenges in places like New Zealand, Australia, South Africa. Like, it is really a worldwide show, and those people are going to find ways. So if you're going to not show the show to all of these people at the start, what's going to happen is you might think, oh, I can put it on a DVD set or make it available to people at a later stage. No one wants to wait 2 or 3 months before they can watch it. They want to watch it as it's happening. Exactly. With the internet, there's too much spoilers out there. You don't want to know who's going to win it before, and it's going to be impossible to miss it. Like, you go on Reddit and someone would have posted it up there when the season's done.
No, it's like even with the new season with spoilers, just this is definitely an aside here, but like I didn't mean to scroll, and like I saw one person that's already been eliminated. I'm like, what? No, I don't want to know this. I don't want to know this. Yeah. And so like even me, who I'm trying to avoid spoilers. Like if I was in another country, especially, and I was just trying to find like where I could watch it or whatever, you might stumble onto these spoilers. And also, though, to your point, that if they find for season 1 a way to be able to watch it without having to have Paramount Plus, they might not purchase Paramount Plus in the future because they found out how to get it without having to purchase it. So I just really wish that they weren't so tunnel vision with their audience, and they realize that they have a whole huge amount of people that would have loved to pay and contribute to Paramount Plus and make it a big success. But it's kind of like they don't care. Like, I don't even know why they're not being a little more open with who is able to stream.
I'm sure there's some sort of legal agreements behind the scene because, the challenge has got contracts in which countries, what channels can show it and all that. There will be a reason. I mean, most people in business, they're there to make money, right? So we're probably just not privy to that. And I'm definitely not qualified enough to talk towards that. But I'm sure that, where there's a will, there's a way. And they can find a way to get the show out there for more of us to be able to watch it easily. Now, the other thing that we sort of go into here is the nominations. And we have Anissa, definitely doing her part as Yasela's close friend here and trying to make the case, even though she was never really going to follow through with what Yasela wanted. She at least makes the case here to the group to say that Yasela wants it to be fair. She wants it to be either a Darrell or a Yes going in there because they've not played in any of these challenges before. Derek very quickly jumps in there and says, yes, she did. She mentioned she didn't want me or Alton in there, so obviously trying to save himself, which is really a funny moment there. Derek is a little weasel, to be honest with you. I love him, but he knows what he's doing.
Well, Derek, like, he's always been a little bit, I guess, kind of wishy-washy. He doesn't like to make it clear whose side he's on, but he's on everybody's side, and he doesn't, he doesn't try to burn bridges. Like, he's definitely very much towing the middle often, and so
Is he
this
like Darrell?
Kind of.
Like Darrell?
He's kind of like Darrell, but people get more pissed at him for doing it.
Yeah, I think Darrell, he's got that social skills and just got that smile. People are like, oh, I'll forgive him, like
he's funnier.
Yeah, exactly. I think Derek's a little bit more serious, so people take it a little bit differently. But the big thing for me, the big storyline for me here, we can go through who's voted for who, but the really shocking one here, and in my opinion, is Jimmy. Like, she really threw a man under the bus here by throwing a vote on Derek. And to me, I've been praising Jimmy throughout the season for being very strategically smart and knowing what she's doing. And she probably has her reasons. Maybe she'll talk about that on the after show, which I haven't watched yet. But, very strange for her to throw a vote here on Derek. And similar, like, I feel like Jimmy and Janae have been on the same side of the house here. And Janae does the same thing. She also throws a vote here on Derek, which I found interesting because ultimately those two people are the reason that, in my mind, that Nehemiah is going down there. There's other people who threw votes on different people here, but I feel like they're the ones that really stuffed it up if they wanted Nehemiah to be there long term. But it also could be that really Jimmy didn't want to see Nehemiah in the final, because I do think that Nehemiah in the final would have been pretty good.
Well, okay, I'm wondering, like, so Jemmy, before we get here, is kind of saying that she wants to hear all the different pitches and then make her own decision in the nomination or the deliberation. So I really think that she may have thought that people might have hopped on the Derek train with her, kind of starting that with her and Janae both voting for Derek. And then maybe other people would be like, oh, okay, two people are already here. Like, let's do that. And so maybe she was trying to save Nehemiah in this scenario. And that would have been kind of in alignment with what Yasela wanted, because no, Yasela didn't want Derek because Derek was the second best. So I'm not sure why Jemmy did this, actually, but that's why it leads me to believe that she's not a fan of Derek, because she did not need to vote Derek in at all unless she was trying to get the vote on him. And so
I think she looked at it as a throwaway. I really feel like she did a throwaway vote on Derek, thinking that it wasn't going to amount to anything here. And she tried to not show her cards, which I don't understand why, because it's so close to, it's the finale. So who cares who you vote against here? They're not going to be able to come back for you in the next round because everybody's running the finale in any case. So I really didn't understand that vote. And I also want to touch on what Speaking the Truth here is saying with Master Yes with his Jedi mind trick. Fair enough for Yes to talk himself out of that situation, but for me, his speech didn't make any sense. I just, him talking about us being friends and I don't have allies, I align with the person that I talked to the next morning, and I hope that this is going to be friendships longer. And then suddenly, I didn't understand the pitch. And then Anissa suddenly is having this light bulb moment, and she's wowed by what Jess is saying. And she's no, I'm going to save him, because I think she values friendships, but she's breaking one friendship for someone she's just met. So it's kind of weird. I don't know. It didn't work for me.
It was very confusing, because I was like, oh, that's not really a great pitch, being I don't care about past loyalties. I only care about who I'm talking to today. But I'm assuming that we didn't see much of all of the whole speech. It must have been longer and we didn't see the whole thing. And maybe she filled in the blanks to make the speech better, to make what she wanted to do anyways make sense for her. So maybe she was he really said something, we've had some really great conversations, and that would be really disloyal to me if I voted him in. I know he's right. I think that she probably filled in the blanks to make his speech seem a little bit better than it was, because she wanted to maybe get out Nehemiah. Maybe she didn't want to run with Nehemiah. Maybe she thought Nehemiah is somebody that could potentially beat her. And so I'm wondering if she was just using it as an opportunity just to take out somebody that would be helping Yasela more than they would be helping her. You know what I mean? I think that I think that she was just trying to position herself with people that could potentially help her in the final. And so, yes, now probably if they were teamed together, will be supportive of Anissa. And if it was Nehemiah that was still there, maybe not. Maybe he would be more supportive of Yasela as opposed to Nehemiah, or Jemme over Anissa. So I think it's just her relationship.
I get you. Now the party section here that we go into, the biggest part of the party for me, sort of that stands out, is the Big Easy and Nehemiah conversation. And I found it really funny where Big Easy says to Nehemiah, "Don't worry, I'll make you breakfast in bed in the morning, and I'll bring you some juice." And Nehemiah, he's like, "I'm not afraid of you," and Big Easy saying, "I never said that." And he's like, "No one's afraid of you. Everyone can take you out." So he's being, Nehemiah goes into this really beast mode, tunnel vision, cocky place when he needs to go into battle. And I get it. Like, listen, you need to ramp yourself up for it. But Big Easy sort of brings up, listen, I beat you the last time we played, and I'll beat you again. And I've got to say, I really love Big Easy's. He's got a real calm demeanor about how he can bring it when he needs to. But like he said, he's not going to allow Nehemiah to get in his head and rattle him here when he's playing chess, not checkers.
Well, and I think, though, there's a difference. So I think that because Easy has beat him before, he's able to have a different confidence that Nehemiah just doesn't actually have in the vibrations between him and the energy between him and Easy. And so Easy can be like, "Hey man, I beat you once, I'll beat you again." And Nehemiah can be like, "I don't think you could beat me again." So I think it's there's a little bit of a difference. And I think that's why Easy is able to have so much confidence, is that it's already happened. He can do it. So if you can do it once, you can do it again. And so I think that he has an upper hand in the situation, and that Nehemiah was trying to still be cocky, but he can't have the same cockiness because he has actually lost. So I thought it was an interesting dynamic for sure.
The other big part here in the party section is obviously, one of the funny moments is Jimmy saying that, I'll drink you out of all the red wine, and I'll drink you out of all the white wine. And she's just having a good time, and clearly she's super confident she's not going in the next day if she's drinking like that, because the strategy should be that if you're thinking you've got any chance of going into an elimination the next day, you shouldn't be drinking the way she's drinking.
Well, I don't think that anybody is Nehemiah's not going to be calling her in if she doesn't want him to, or she doesn't want him to. Yeah.
Or is the strategy this, Chantel? If you're a girl that could get selected to go in there, you get absolutely mortaled and you just drink a lot because the guy's going to be like, "I'm not taking this person in tomorrow because she's going to make me lose."
Exactly. I mean, I think it's all of the above here. I think she knew that she's free to drink because there's no chance that people would take a chance on her, I think. Or at least Nehemiah, anyways. I don't think that "Hey, I'm drinking tonight, so don't pick me." Kind of like how Anissa's like, "Don't pick me, I'll just lay down and do snow angels." She's like, "Don't pick me because I'm going to be hungover."
Yeah, and what Jimmy's doing is So Jimmy here doing all the drinking and getting a bit drunk and tipsy here. She's playing devil's advocate here or being the middle person, running to Yasela here and stoking that fire, and just continuing to say, "Anissa completely, backstabbed you here. I can't believe she's done that to you. She plays this messy game every single season when she plays." So she's really making Yasela feel more justified, and she's reinforcing Yasela's feelings towards Anissa in this case. And this is really bringing that battle between Yasela and Anissa to the front now, where Yasela goes up and confronts her about it, says that you're not a good friend, you're someone that does this to everybody, and every season that you play, you pretend to be good friends with them. And I felt for Anissa in this case, because Anissa said that, "No, I'm the person that normally has a lot of good friends, and then at some point it comes back to bite me in the butt," which is, in my opinion, from what I remember of seeing Anissa in all these challenges, in most cases true. She does seem to get along with everybody, and at certain points she gets betrayed or backstabbed by some of her friends. I don't think because it's anything personal. And I take my hat off to Anissa because she's been betrayed so many times by so many people in these challenges, but yet she goes on to the next season, and she'll still be there with Corey. She'll still be there with Fessy. I can tell you now, she's going to put bygones and let bygones be bygones. So she's got a different approach. But like she says, Yasela, you've been out of the game for so long, you just don't realize how it is nowadays.
Well, and this is the thing too, is that Yasela was so angry about this move when, I think I wish that Anissa just said, "You know what? I really want, Easy really wanted to have Nehemiah, and something that we also have been doing is allowing the people that were going down to call to ask for who they wanted, and he wanted Nehemiah. And so, like, that's also, it could be another angle that Aneesa could have said with, like, in her argument here. I really don't think that Yasela has a really, like, it wasn't that he put somebody against her. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I mean, it's not like it was Alton. If it was Alton that Aneesa put in there, like, I'd be like, okay, I can't ever talk to you again because that's super disloyal. But it's like, just because Yasela said that there's a few people that she thinks should be off limits, I just thought it was a little bit like, I don't know, why can't Aneesa make her own decision for who she wants to run the final with, and hopefully that she'll be able to get there.
Yeah, and it's not like she's directly going against Yasela here. Like you said, Yasela, she may want to go against certain people, but at the end of the day, unless Yasela feels like Nehemiah is someone that would have been able to take her out easier or something like that, and that's why she didn't want Nehemiah to go against them. I don't see how this is a betrayal at all, and I feel like Yasela, probably in the heat of the game here, it's just taken it a little bit the wrong way. Speaking the truth here mentions that he's surprised Nehemiah didn't bring up the fact that he actually didn't get to compete with Big Easy, because I remember that specific challenge. It was who can lift the most, and then I can, yes. So that's fair. I agree. In my opinion, if I was Nehemiah, I would have looked at that and thought to myself, that's a throwaway elimination. Yeah, fine. You beat me there because you were more confident about what you could lift. And I think, if I remember correctly, Big Easy bloody lifted everything that was there. I think that he ended up, because he's a strong bastard. He can lift a lot of weight. He's a big guy. So, but yeah, like I think that to me is a little bit of a gimmicky elimination compared to the one that he's now lost. I feel like Big Easy can go into the next one and say, I fairly and squarely beat you in this specific challenge going into it. So we go back to the house here. Is there anything else in the party that you wanted to mention? I feel like those are the main points.
Well, yeah, no, the point that I was going to say before was just Jemmye just loves creating the drama, just loves getting in there, and like, I can't believe Aneesa would do that. Was so disloyal of her. Like, she was like Aneesa's my girl, but I can't believe she didn't vote the way she said she was going to vote. But then Jemmye didn't vote that way either. Like, Jemmye voted for Derek, which wasn't who Yasela wanted her to vote for anyways. She wanted it to be either Darrell, which I would think is a bad idea, or Yes. So basically, Yes is who Yasela wanted to be going in there. And so I thought Jemmye's being Jemmye.
She was being shady. She was being shady.
I thought it was really shady.
I love it. Like, you need to bring her back again for the next season as well, because I bet you that Aneesa is not going to forgive and forget. It'd be interesting to know, do you know if Aneesa and Yasela have made peace outside of the game since then? Is there any indication that they...
Well, from what I've seen, Yasela is still texting that, Aneesa's shady, and she's like, you got to go bring your shady antics, bring it back to the main season of the challenge and stay off of this one. And so
wow.
I remember in the first season of Survivor, I was like, oh my God, like, strategy and alliances? Like, this is so...
lying?
Yes. Deceit. And so I remember like being a little bit wary of it. And then it wasn't until, I believe, Marquesas, when Boston Rob really got me excited about the strategy of playing these games. And so then I started really loving the social strategy element of these games. And so I think that Yasela needed to do a little bit more homework on the evolution of this game. Like, I know that you had these old school players, but it was still for a new school amount of money. And a new school amount of money means that, like, I'm going to do what it takes to get me to the end of this game. And so I'm sorry, Yasela, I'm not with you here. I get honor. I get, sticking by her word, but it's also $500,000 that changes lives, and that makes people make different decisions. So sorry that she didn't vote the way that you wanted to. It didn't affect the outcome.
Yeah, and I mean, it is sad because I do think that Aneesa really values this friendship, and you see in the next section here that she confides in Janae and Jemmye being in there in that conversation again just after she's stoked the flames on the other side, and she says that it's bizarre that she's lost a friend over something like this, and that she feels really jaded because she feels like she's a good person, and that it hasn't gotten her anywhere in these seasons, and I think we've mentioned that before. The other thing here, just prior to going into the challenge, is kind of interesting knowing that Nehemiah didn't really have his mind made up on who he was going to choose to go down there and help him in the challenge. And I wonder if this also, is the strategy to rather let your potential partner know ahead of time, get in game mode, I'm choosing you. I understand why he wants to keep his options open, because what if it's a hall brawl? For instance, he's not going to choose Kendall to go in against a Yasela. He probably would want to choose an Anissa, for instance, in that case. But he was going to choose between Kendall, Ruthie, and Anissa. I would have been surprised if he chose Anissa. I don't think Anissa would have followed through with what she said. I think she respects the game too much. She would not have been sitting there building sandcastles like she said. But it would have been interesting to see if he did call her down there, and he would have been justified to do so since she voted for him.
And kind of like in Yasela, what you're like, you want Nehemiah to like bring what if Anissa beat you, Yasela? Like that would be insult to injury for sure if that were the case. So I just thought that I agree with it being hypocritical with what Nehemiah ended up doing in the end, because Nehemiah ended up calling down Kendall into this elimination. Despite the fact that the whole blow up was because it should have been fair, and people that haven't seen it yet should be the ones that are going down there. So why wasn't that same honor being held for Kendall? Well, do you know what? Because Yasela doesn't like Kendall, so the rules don't apply for Kendall. So I was a little bit irritated by that. But I did hear that Nehemiah and Kendall did develop a little bit more of a friendship than was shown on the actual show. And that Kendall said to Nehemiah, if it looks like something that it's going to be endurance or anything climbing, don't worry, you can pick me. I will do this with you. And so she did give him the green light with something that if he felt that it was one of those kind of things, that she would be willing to go down with him. So that's another thing.
So for me, the other thing as well with that is I didn't fully agree with yes in this case. Like, I understand where he's coming from. I understand how it comes across as being hypocritical. But if you've already voted Nehemiah in, all bets are off, because he already went to an elimination. In my opinion, he should be able to choose. If they weren't going to honor that deal up front, then why should Nehemiah honor that deal and play by that code that they weren't willing to play with, prior to that? So in my opinion, Nehemiah could have chosen anyone he wants at that point. It is his life in the game. If they did honor that code, I understand if he suddenly turned against it. But I feel like it's kind of hypocritical to expect him not to do it when they just didn't do it themselves.
Well, I obviously I can see that side. And like, I think that he should be able to choose whoever you want. I think that your vote is your vote. You should be able to vote however you want. If you change your mind in the moment, you should be able to change your mind in the moment. Like, all these things, I feel like you should be able to do, because it is an individual game. And yes, you may have friendships that are developed, and that's something, these landmines that you have to navigate in these social strategy games. But I do feel that you should be able to make whatever decision that you want to do that you feel is the best for your game moving forward. But the reason why I agree with yes just a little bit is that, it was just such a big stink about like these moral standings and like doing things with honor, and like, we have to respect the people that did well, and even the people that came second shouldn't even be up for consideration. And so I think it was just like how indignant Yasela was coming across with like how they should be playing this game. Then it's just very ironic, then we'll say, that Nehemiah didn't want to be as loyal to the people that have proven themselves before me. I'm not going to let them go again. I'm going to choose somebody else out of honor. And so I'm fine with what he did, but I could see it being ironic / hypocritical as well.
Yeah, but Nehemiah wasn't the one that was fighting that battle the hardest. That was Yasela. I guess he's in that group, but I don't blame him, to be honest. I did leave this comment by speaking the truth for a while, because we're now getting into the actual elimination. He says that I think the biggest determining factor here in the elimination was who thought to untangle the chains first. And you're right. And I feel, for me in this challenge, like I said, I feel like two people working on this thing together kind of worked against them, opposed to the best thing probably that could have happened. And I'm not taking anything away from Big Easy. It's impressive for him to kind of on his own there, kind of pull it out and win this challenge. And going into this, when I saw what it was, I did not think Big Easy was going to win it. In my opinion, Big Easy and Yasela, they should have had zero chance of winning this against a Nehemiah and a Kendall, who are physically just that much more fit, and you'd expect them to be able to climb better. But like Jimmy said, this wasn't just the challenge about physical ability. It also, you needed to have some smarts about you and how you were going to put those rings on there and build the ladder to get to the top. And Big Easy pulls it out. He proves again, like he said, he's still trying to prove himself from back in the day of why he should be there and why he should be competing in the finale. So I hope that, Big Easy can finish the finale and we don't see him gas out in this one, so that he gets a bit of redemption.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that will be the case. I think what happened with Kendall and Nehemiah is that they thought they had it in the bag. They thought that they had something that suited their skill set. You know, even lifting the rings off of the post, being able to lift up Kendall because she's quite light. They would be able to do that quickly and then like do the climb real quickly. Like I think that they really didn't really see Yasela and Big Easy as being competitive, and so I think they just didn't turn on the gas. It's kind of like how Jay and CT did when they're doing that whole that challenge in season 36 or 35, where it was a big upset. Like, you know, Jay ended up winning and beating CT, and they're like, whoa, like, how did that happen? And I really think it's because CT didn't think that there was any competition and he was going to win no matter what. So he was just kind of like moseying on down. He didn't have the hustle. He didn't have the like, oh my God, I have to do this. And so I think that their kind of ego and like them thinking that they are better shape than both of them, I think they didn't think that they had a competition. And I think they didn't put on as much gas as they needed to get it done. They didn't have any hustle compared to if they were going against somebody else. Like they would be like you know, they would have been working a lot faster. I didn't see the hustle really in them. I think they thought they had it in the bag.
And I think you got to give respect to Big Easy because, you know, a lot of other people, when you're in that situation, when you're down there fighting for your life, adrenaline takes over. You're not thinking clearly. He loses his partner early on in this challenge. She goes down, hurting what she thinks is her knee, and she is kind of out. And he realizes that he's going to have to do this whole thing probably on his own. And a lot of people could have freaked out and panicked in that stage, but he has the mental fortitude to stay calm, keep himself collected. And even, it's funny you mentioned that they weren't working fast enough. I looked at Nehemiah and Kendall and the way that they were working together as being panicky, and the teamwork and the cohesion just didn't work between those two. And that's why I said I feel like it was an advantage to do this on your own, where Big Easy, he remained calm, which, you know, even though he was moving what looked like he was moving slowly, he was doing it in a way where it ended up being faster because he wasn't doing it in a panicky fashion where he couldn't fit those rings in together or figure out what needed to happen. So I take my hat off to him. Now, I do want to go into our draft picks here and have a look quickly at where we're sitting on the board because both of us have lost someone here. So I end up losing my second guy pick. He is out. My Tenderoni is gone, and I am absolutely gutted about that. And you lose your second female pick out there as well. So it is going to be an interesting final here. I'm still, I think, ahead here with the two people going into the final. We've got a total of 6 teams, is it, that would probably go against each other here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potential groups here. So it's a lot of people. Oh, yes, it's 6. Yep. So it's going to be an interesting final. How do you think this final will play out, Chantal? Do you think that we start off in teams to begin with, and then there's like a little bit of a purge?
I think it's going to be pretty similar to how they did that mini. Maybe they'll do it, how many? There's 12, so maybe they'll do 3 teams of 4 or 4 teams of 3. Like, I think they will start off that, and maybe like the last team of 3 that finishes, they're going to be out. And like, I think they'll do a purge like that and kind of like whittle it down until there's just maybe 4 people running the last leg of it. Yeah, I definitely think that it's going to be teams. I don't know if it's going to be 2 teams, 3 teams, 4 teams, but I think teams will be how they start and then breaking it down.
Now, USA Today has got, I know we shouldn't be listening to them. It's probably the kiss of death if you listen to them. They've got Mark as their number 1 ranked person going into the finale to win it. They've got Elton as number 2, and I believe they've got Anissa as number 3 there going into the finale. I don't think that they've got the 3 people that are going to win it. I think Elton, having seen him gas out early on in the season doing the mini finale, that could count against them. I mean, it could be a misdirection. And again, you shouldn't be reading too much in the edit for the challenge because they will show you whatever, and it might not matter, like with Nehemiah going home here. I don't think he's winning it. I think your best hope for a win in your team is Darrell. That's who I would put my money on to pull it out here in the end. I do think Yes could be a sleeper because he's shown so far in these challenges that he's got good stamina. He's smart. He seems to be a pretty decent runner from what I've seen up until this point. So I think he could still be in there. For the females, Ruthie has been impressing me throughout the season, so I would be keeping an eye on her. I'm very happy that my number one girl pick and my number one guy pick is still in there, so it justifies choosing them as high as I did. And I am going to continue to back them going into the final here, with Kellyanne being my favorite for the girls going into the final. And Derek, he's become the new person I'm shouting for now, so hopefully that's not the kiss of death now that we've seen his last edit in this episode. I feel like those are the two people to watch out for, but who knows what can happen with anyone else that's in this group. Again, like I said, Chantal, it's coming too soon. It's going to be over in 2 weeks' time, and I'm sad.
I know. I mean, I definitely feel as though we both could easily have the winners on our team. I'm trying to think, like, with the edit, whose stories are we told? Like, everybody kind of has had little snippets of their story being told. And so I can see definitely Anissa finally getting that win, and like her making that pick is what ends up happening. Because say it starts off in teams at the beginning, like a team of 3, and her team of 3 makes it through like the grueling running portion, and then it's not running anymore. Maybe then it's like puzzle, eating something gross, like puzzle, sprint to the end. She might have a chance moving forward if she passes like the first hurdle. So yeah. It definitely is going to be determined by how they start off the finale or the final. And so then I would be better able to judge who's going to win or might be able to take it, because right now I think Alton could take it. I think Ruthie could take it. I think Darrell could take it. I think Kellyanne could take it. I think Derek could take it. I think Anissa could take it. I think Mark could take it. So like, it's like, pretty much half the people still there. I could see them potentially winning. And so it really is going to be determined by how they do these first purges and how people are just going to be released from this final.
Yeah, and I also just want to add here at the end, before we finish off with this episode, that I feel a little bit gutted that, and I hope they do this differently next season as well, that they don't have a male and female winner going into this finale, because I feel like someone like Kellyanne, I feel like she's got second or third place written all over her. She could be the number one female, but it's going to be super tough to beat Darrell or like a Derek or someone like a Mark potentially who's good across everything. I feel like a lot of the men here, they are the favorites going into this finale, and I'd love to be wrong. But I mean, the history of the challenge shows us that, if it's one person only winning, in most cases, unless you're Cara Maria or Jenny West, you're not going to win this. There's very few females that have beaten all the guys in a season. So I hope that they bring a female and male winner, or like potentially a duos winner into the next season for the All-Stars.
Duos, or like, I mean, one thing that I realized that I miss a lot about the older seasons is like, give me first, second, and third, make some money. What's so bad about giving third place 20 grand? Like, it's not that bad. I'm sure that the people will still be happy with splitting $400,000 instead of $500,000 if like they know that even if they get third place, they still win something. So that's one thing that I really like about the older season, is like, even was like rivals or whatnot, it's going to be 6 people making some money, not just one. Like, I want to see more people get some prize money.
Yeah, 100%. Now, guys, if you've listened up until this point, thank you very much for joining us today. If you're new to the channel, I do know that about 50% of the people that are watching are not subscribed at the moment. We hope that today we've earned your subscription, so please hit the subscribe button so you can be notified next time that we go live. We really appreciate it. And if you can make it live to some of these shows that we're doing, we normally do this at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over on a Friday each week. So we really appreciate the support, guys. Chantal, what do you have going on at the moment on your other channel, Reality Realness?
Reality Realness. Well, later on tonight, we'll do another little chit chat about the Challenge All-Stars. And like, I don't know, I'm thinking of doing, in collaborations with Couch Potato Queens, we might do a Flavor of Love rewatch. I've never seen it before, so that's kind of what we're looking at. And I'm thinking of maybe doing The Hills, but other than that, I'm really just doing the challenge right now, which is kind of insane to me. Yeah,
what are you going to do with all that free time? You should join me on a recap or two for Survivor South Africa Immunity Island then.
Is that that's the new season, or is that that's the new one?
New season,
coming out, right?
Yeah,
of course.
starts the 3rd of June is the new episode for that, and you can find all of the recaps on Reality Realist on Reality Pop as well, for Survivor South Africa Immunity Island. Myself and Riley, who's my co-host, we just did our draft pick last weekend with the new players, and it was a draft pick based on very limited information so far because we only have their bios and like a little 1-minute video of them talking. But that's what always makes it the most fun going into these seasons, when you either get it very right or very wrong. So we'll be back next week, guys. Thank you for joining us, and see you next time. Bye.